Hey everyone, it's the Fantasy Fiends podcast. I'm Stevie Collier and I'm here with my co-presenter, Andy Pelican.
You can just say host, right? Like it's way fewer syllables to say host.
But I like to look fancy, smart, and rich. So
You just sound douchey when you go to French has that quality. It's why I don't ever pronounce my name as Peloquin, the French Canadian way, because it makes me sound like a douchebag. So I just say Pelican. It's easier.
I would get murdered in Texas if I introduced myself as Stevie Collier. I would get murdered. And we're honored to have J.A. Andrews for the very first time on the Fantasy Fiends podcast, also known as Janice, which, funny enough, my first French professor was Janice. I'm not joking. I'm wrangling a cat right now.
Yeah. Now, Janice, I have to ask, how many times do you get the joke of Janice from Friends? Like, it's probably not as consistent anymore.
Yeah. So you're dating yourself because I don't get as much, but like back when Friends was on, yeah, all the time. Ooh. I was like, right, that has to be like the only Janice and normal.
Literally the only person famous named Janice and infamous, I guess.
Yes. I'm like, great. There's a Janice in the Muppets. Like she's like super hippie. She's like super long blonde hair, and she's always like, ooh. So that before Janice from Friends, that was the Janice that I got.
Which one's Janice from Friends? Is that the blonde one?
No, Chandler's ex-girlfriend, the one with the super annoying laugh and the Brooklyn accent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's perfect to be named after, or not, but to be known for. Yes, definitely. That was a lot of fun. Awesome. So, if you don't know Janice's work, she is the Dragon Lady, as I call her. Like Andy's like, hey, J. Andrews coming. Like, oh, Dragon Woman. All right, awesome. Let's talk dragons. But we're not talking dragons. I'm sure we're going to be talking about dragons. But Janice has a new book coming out, and I really hope I was just allowed to say that, right? Yeah. Okay, Janice, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's actually called Dragon's Reach. So nice job with the dragon thing. So I have one other trilogy out called Keeper Chronicles that follows these keepers. They're like storyteller, mages, historian people. And so this is a whole set of stories that happens with them. And so this new series is the Keeper origin. So way back when their country starts and the keepers find each other and get started. So yes, so Dragon's Reach should be out. I'm going to say the 20th is a solid bet as to when it should be out.
So this is before the Keepers.
Before the Keepers. Hundreds of years before it. So there's going to be no characters carrying over. But
okay, so you don't need to.
No.
Okay.
Not even the elf?
No. I don't think so. Not in book one.
Okay.
Maybe later.
Because she was my favorite.
Yes. She was a lot of people's favorite. Yeah.
Are elves super long-lived in this series, in this world?
They are. So she's the only elf that we really get to know in the Keeper Chronicles. And so I have toyed with the idea. I think she'd be pretty young. Like, I don't think they're like thousands of years old, but hundreds is not out of the question. So she'd be pretty young, which she was already pretty like flighty and crazy. So her younger might be really fun. We may run into her.
You could almost play her like I don't know if you've read the first Empire series by Michael J. Sullivan. He's got a character, Suri the Mystic. She's just the most entertaining character.
I've read his other books and I haven't read that one, but now I will, because that's
I will say that if you bring back that elf character, you will have all of your fans just dying with awesomeness.
Yes. She's one of those characters who, when I first started writing her, she was just a throwaway side character, just there to like be entertaining. And she just like took on a life of her own. She ended up driving half the story in the book she's in. She took over, which is really cool when that happens, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, today we have a very interesting topic for you too. But before that, what we always do on the Fantasy Fiends podcast is we talk about something cool that's happened to us within the past 1 or 2 weeks. Janice, you already said that you have a book coming out. That's cheating. So you have to find another one. But you don't have to. Andy and I can go first for sure.
You do, because quarantine, like we've been sitting at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Better find something or you're off the air. No, kidding. Andy, how did the test results come back?
What test results?
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong. I'm sorry. That wasn't for the podcast. Let's mess around. Andy, do you have any? Andy, do you have anything cool to talk about?
It's cool for me. It's kind of only cool for me because no one else is as far in the Cerberus series as I am. Like all of my beta readers are on book 5 and I'm working on book 6, but some fascinating developments came about over the course of this week. Like I've written about 30,000 words this week, and some fascinating stuff. Like this morning, a character who I introduced as sort of not a throwaway, but someone who is sort of setting up for future books as an enemy. The character popped up in the current story in this super interesting way that gives the main character Nolan a reason to take the action that I needed him to take, like a way that was beyond just, we got to do this for this. Like it was super interesting. And then that leads to some fascinating things that shape the future of the story, the future of the series in super, super cool ways. So that's happened to me quite a few times over the course of not only this week, but last week too. Just these twists that sort of pop up when you're in the groove and writing things, you kind of end up saying something or making something happen without thinking about the consequences. And then when you stop and you kind of say, okay, how do I do this? Or you kind of lean into it, shit just gets super, super interesting. So I'm really excited by the direction this story is going. I mean, it's been 8 chapters and he hasn't killed anybody yet. So, it might be a little bit slow for some readers, but it was really interesting. I basically spent 6 chapters setting up the special forces way of getting into position to take the shot. Like all of the ways that they patrol in, the methods they use to evade detection, to cover their tracks, getting, sighting the shot, dialing in the rifle, like all of the stuff that goes into it. It was really interesting for me to be able to write. So hopefully readers enjoy that too.
Dude, that's freaking awesome, man. And if anyone can make something interesting that's not killing someone, it's you. So, actually, when you were talking about that, I thought of a scene from Heirs of Destiny, where it's kind of like a mechanic guy that kind of corners him. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And then he's got all like those strong brothers behind him, or sons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
man, I can't remember, but I was like,
apprentices.
Yeah, you didn't kill anybody there, but it was a tense moment.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was shooting for, was to just like keep driving up the tension, adding in new threats that they couldn't prepare for, or, more challenges that he sort of had to deal with. And this is like, they've been sitting in place for 36 hours to not move, to be able to take that shot. So this is something that happens. Like this guy that I talked to for research, he's like, oh yeah, 36 hours is a short patrol for something like this. Like,
what?
It's insane. Wow. Yeah, oh, absolutely. He was like, oh, if I'm on a 36-hour patrol, I just won't sleep because the situation, it like requires so much focus. It's insane, the kind of thing that these people do. So being able to showcase it a little bit through the story for me has been such an interesting. It's kind of kept me moving, that even though no one has died in 8 chapters and no one's been punched or shot or anything for 8 chapters, it's been some of the most interesting writing that I've done in a long time, just because of all of those little tiny details that I am learning as I go.
Dude, really cool. Like, and I have to ask you, do you think you have a better chance now of sniping someone even though you've never sniped before?
Yeah, simply because of the knowledge. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. Book learning doesn't mean anything until you actually put it into practice and get that experience.
Oh wait, so you're saying I can't ride a Tyrannosaurus Rex? I don't understand.
I can tell you for a fact that your legs are just too short to wrap around their neck properly.
Dude, that's true. Like, it would be like riding a really awkward sausage. And I know that sounds wrong. Rebecca, take it away. I have some cool news. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it or not. I'm just so lost with everything because I am doing this series with Jonathan Yanis. It's my first sci-fi, and I asked him the other day. I was like, you know what, Jonathan, let's talk business. I was like, did I hit the expectations that you want? I was like, this is not imposter syndrome. I think I did a great job. Can you let me know? Like, did I hit the beats? And he was like, yeah. And that really made me feel good, because I was a little worried, honestly. Like, I watch Gundams. I watch an anime about mechs. Do I have enough knowledge? Like. But Andy's got the right idea. He's playing oh my god, brain fart. What is it?
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. Yeah.
I think for your series, Stevie, you should play Titanfall.
Oh, dude, I beat Titanfall. I love Titanfall.
But I'm saying like that's more applicable to what you're writing. Mass Effect is more on par with what I'm writing because you've got the character who's, like he's got the AI in the, in the arm thing or the brain or whatever, and they've got the armor, they've got the guns. Like it's not big mechs like in Titanfall, which is what you're writing. Mine is much more like boots on the ground, direct combat.
That's very true. Like, that's how I found out that I was getting old, is when I played multiplayer on Titanfall 2. I was like, I can't move as fast as these youngins anymore. You can't see anymore. And like, I got nauseous for the first time. I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get nauseous from a video game again. This is impossible. I won't let that happen. I'll just vomit everywhere. Janice is like, where? Where the heck am I? Sorry, Janice, what?
So your stories are all either riding giant dinosaurs or riding giant robots?
I go big or go home.
Yeah.
I'm just bold.
Psychiatrists might say he's compensating for something, but this is not that kind of show.
Yeah, that was good. That was a really good insult. Thank you.
It was a good burn. Thank you.
Good burn. I'm putting some salve on right now. Don't you like the word salve? Salve. I totally.
Salve.
Is it salve?
Yeah, the L is silent.
Let's not make it silent. Let's pretend Americans don't make it silent.
Salve. I'm from Texas. The South says salve, but I was
ain't nothing silent in Texas, boy.
Dang it, that's good. You're on a roll today. But I was putting CBD oil, like a salve, on my back, and I like called out Lisa, like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm putting on a salve." She goes, "You need to stop writing so many books. You learn too many big words." But no, so my good news is that we are actually releasing Mech Fury next week.
Woohoo!
Yeah, so it was supposed to be May 1st, but we are bringing it a whole month before.
Are you trying to compete with mine?
I don't know. I don't want to compete against yours. I
feel like you are, Stevie.
But we're different, though. You're military sci-fi garbage, and I'm dinosaur droids. No, I'm kidding. I have a character in there named Booger. It's totally me, but it's a great, Andy, I guess you are doing military science, all right?
It's like I wrote it with military science fiction in mind, but because like when readers see military science fiction, they're expecting like military units, Marines or Army or like actual war stuff. This is every character in it to some degree kind of is military adjacent, whether they're former soldiers or former special operators or former something or another, but it's not actually straight up military in that sense.
Dude, awesome. I mean, I just don't want to compete because I feel bad for you.
I'm calling it epic space opera.
Epic space opera. Dude, heck yeah. I'm trying to find the cover. I thought it'd be cool to show you guys the cover if you want.
So now I want to see a big battle next week between giant robots and snipers. Can you snipe someone in a robot?
Oh, that's exactly what this guy's meat and potatoes is. Like his whole thing is that the mechs that they fought against, they had like a view screen about this big that the pilots could see out of, and that's what he had to snipe through.
There you go.
Yeah. That wasn't that in book 1?
Yeah, it's in the opening chapter where he's like, the guy he was aiming at has this massive penthouse window and it's made of shitty, regular glass, and he's used to shooting through like special glass, a 20 centimeter wide pane from however many kilometers out. He's like, this is too easy. Kind of a fun little thing.
Does it kill him anyway, or does he just make it hard?
Oh, absolutely. No, okay. Absolutely. It's
very good.
You can't not kill the person like that, especially with a name like German French, which is the most ridiculous name ever.
His name's German French?
Yeah. I was, when I write sci-fi, I kind of end up tapping into a lot of the sillier things that I haven't been able to play with in fantasy. So like the naming conventions of people like what's his name? Guy Ritchie. Every single one of his movies has people with ridiculous names, and I love it so much, but I could never really do it in fantasy because you can't, it doesn't fit. I don't know if you've seen the King Arthur movie where he's got some of the new one where he's got some characters, like there's a character named Blue and Peg Leg or, Fish Legs or something like that. Like it doesn't really work. Whereas in sci-fi, I mean, in fantasy, I mean, in modern stuff, and then of course in sci-fi, you can do all kinds of stuff, and I have so much fun with it.
I mean, I know I put funny names in my stuff all the time. Okay, so I found the cover. It's not the best quality right now.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Let me
share your screen.
I know, but I'm looking at my tabs real quick. Sure. Nothing that bad. It's just making sure. Bank account information. Let's go with that. Let's see. Okay, then there we go. Can you see it?
I see me.
Wrong one. Here we go. That's the one we want.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, sorry for the quality, but that was actually book 3, but we made it book 1. So, and that is our Jackal. And right here is where little Jackie is. So lots of purple. Whoa. But yeah, super exciting. So that's my good news. Janice, did you have anything? I know you're quarantined. If you don't have anything, that's cool.
No, I can't believe. Yeah, I didn't think about this, and I can't believe I didn't think about it. So just over the past week or two, I actually just was able to sign a deal with Podium to do the audiobooks for Keeper Chronicles. And they're getting Tim Gerard Reynolds to do the narration, and he's like awesome. He did all Michael J. Sullivan's books.
Tim Gerard Reynolds is amazing.
Yes. So I'm just really excited. I was gonna just kind of throw together some audiobooks, just whatever. So yeah, it's super exciting that they've given me this deal, and it should come out, I think, in the fall. So they got a book to read it in the summer. So.
Man, it's a good thing we got it on now so that we can read it before Tim and Gerald Reynolds just knocks it out of the park.
Exactly.
Yeah. What other books has he done?
He did Michael Sullivan's, all the.
Okay.
He did Red Rising.
He did. Yep.
And he's up there with names like Michael Kramer and like the guys who do sort of the more classic fantasy that the big publishers go for. He's not a name in indie publishing as much. His style of reading it caters much more to the more literary style of fantasy and stuff. But he's amazing.
Yeah, I'm hoping it works well. And my books are definite throwbacks to more classic fantasy, like elves and dwarves, and it really plays on all those tropes and stuff. So I'm hoping he's a good fit for it. The other books that he's done, I'm hoping we have good audience overlap in those. So
what is Red Rising about? Is that it says Hunger Games? So I'm like,
I said it's the Hunger Games on steroids. That's the first book. The last third is everything that was dark about the Hunger Games is bright and cheerful by comparison to how that part is. Oh, the first part is the dystopian aspects of Hunger Games, where it's oppressive regime, all of that. It was okay, but it really wasn't up until sort of that last third where we see him dropped into this Hunger Games scenario that I was just absolutely hooked. I binge listened to that series courtesy of Tim Gerard Reynolds' voice. That was just he made the series for me, and so I binge listened to the whole 5 books that are out since November.
Cool.
Oh wow. Yeah, dude, that sounds freaking dope. I'm totally gonna listen. I've been looking for a new series to read. You know what? The sad thing is though, it doesn't go with. I like to read in my genre to study it. But wasn't you and Andy, talking you don't need to do that?
Study the genre?
Yeah, no, read in the genre. You can read anything.
Yeah. In fact, there's a lot of people who argue that you should read outside the genre.
That's right. It was
that it's not sort of recycling stuff.
Yeah. Before we move on to our topic of the day, which is, do I have 3 nipples? We'll find out. Janice, I need to get out of here.
I gotta go.
Your kids aren't here, are they? Do you have kids?
I do. They're
Okay.
They're downstairs watching a movie.
Okay, cool. That's a good idea. I'm writing that down. Andy, I noticed that you did a video with your family on Facebook. Was that really your family?
Yeah, that was most of us.
I missed the email. I'm sorry, I missed the video.
What? No. It was a call with my family.
I know. Where was I? I didn't see my link to the video.
Oh, I get it.
Oh, you just made it even sadder.
You're
what are you talking about? In the arms of an angel. Dude, your brother, was that your brother?
Yes.
He looks just like you.
All three of us
It
look
freaked me
similar.
out. Go check it out on his Legionnaires page. It freaked me out. I was like, Andy's got a good looking family. Go check. They're probably all like 7 feet tall, Janice. I swear to God.
It's just wrong. I'm like 5'3".
You're 5'3"?
Yeah.
So is my wife. 5'3.5". That half inch is super important.
Dude, I can't.
Stevie will tell you that much.
Yeah.
See, that was a double burn right there. That was a short joke and a small penis joke. Boom. I'm so sorry, Janice, that you had to come on for this.
Rajin says, LL Stevie in the ditch. Okay. All right. So let's get to our topic. It's a weird one. Sheltering versus protecting. Where's the line? Andy's going to explain this to all of us.
You know, I love this idea that Janice had. So she was talking about family and all of that. And we've talked about family, you know, the found family, the family you make, the family you choose, things like that. But she mentioned that in the story, the character is like trying to protect her younger sister from things, I'm assuming bad things, right? And this is one thing that comes up a lot in TV shows and movies and stuff where a secret is uncovered and the character says, you know, like, why didn't you tell me? Or they get mad and the character who has the secret says, I was trying to protect you or whatever. And so it's like, where's that line? When is keeping something from someone or stopping someone from encountering something or experiencing something, when does it cross from good into bad? And this is, honestly, I don't think we're going to find an answer to this question, but it's sort of an interesting thought experiment. When does it cross that line from good and bad?
Real quick, before I forget what I was going to say, I hate movie tragedies, you know, comedies, tragedies. I hate tragedies that go with this genre. I always feel like the ending is unfair to the protagonist because it's like he was trying to hold back, you know, because he didn't want to hurt the other person. And then it went too far. It's like, well, what do I do? And then they're screwed. So I guess the moral of the story is you should have told that person that they were ugly. I don't know. But it's just, to me, it's like unfair at the end. I guess maybe because I do this, so maybe that's why. But those unfair tragedies. Am I on the right page here?
Yeah. I mean, so, cool. Like one thing that's come up a lot in the last few years. So infidelity, cheating, you know, all of that kind of stuff is like the most popular and my least favorite of sort of these drama things, you know, in every single sort of soap opera-y TV show. So the one I'm watching right now with my wife is Chicago Med. It's a hospital one. So all of that drama, right? And one of the characters kisses a doctor and she doesn't tell her boyfriend for months at a time. And a lot of times people will say, don't tell the person. The secret that you're keeping, that you feel guilty about, all that you're going to do by telling them is sort of take the burden off of your shoulders and make them suffer. When really you're the person who did the bad thing, you're the one who should suffer. So you should live with that guilt. And that's something that has really only come up in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years. Most of the time on TV, it was always like, you know, you got to come clean. You got to make sure that they, you know, that you tell the truth. The truth is more important. But it's kind of interesting to see that shift because then it's like, when is our action to shelter them a good thing versus when is it actually going to harm them by not letting them experience something or by not telling them the truth?
Yeah. And I think the whole, like, whether people are equals makes a difference too. Like if it's a couple, there's a different level of sheltering, right? You might be trying to shelter their feelings, but like I think with kids, people do it a lot with their kids. They shelter their kids from something or other, right? And then to keep them safe, right? To keep them from having to deal with all this horrible stuff in the world. And then as the kid gets older, then you have this trouble of, well, when do you stop sheltering and all that kind of stuff? And so that's kind of my book. Sable is a main character and her parents get killed when they're young. And so she has 2 considerably younger sisters when the parents die. And by the time the story starts, she has 1 sister left. And she's been raising her since she was like 6. And Sable was like 15. And so she was such a little girl when all this started and they get stuck in this slums working for this gang boss guy, right? And so she spent years downplaying how dangerous the stuff Sable has to do is. She steals a lot for the gang boss stuff, and she's been downplaying all that so that her sister doesn't have to deal with it. And she's been working things out. So her sister has this job in like a bakery. So she's not even like doing anything dangerous. And so, they've gotten old enough that her sister's now 18 and still kind of like naive about the world because Sable's just been doing so much to keep her like free. And so a lot of the point of this book 1 is that Talia, that's the younger sister, starts to want her own freedom. So she goes out and she makes a deal with the gang boss, who she's decided isn't really all that bad because Sable never tells her all the really bad stuff. And so then Sable's stuck with this, like how could I can't even get you out of this. Like, and so all these decisions Talia is making are made out of this naivete that her sister built in her, trying to protect her when she was little. So yeah, like I don't know. Sable screwed up. So I don't know when she was supposed to stop protecting, but she did it way too long.
Yeah, I think that's you have kids, right? How old are your kids, Janice?
My oldest is 13 and my youngest is 8.
8. I'm sure this has been an argument that you've had with your husband. I know my wife and I have fought about this all the time about, when to, fix the kids' problem versus when to let them sort of deal with their own mistake. Whether it's a school assignment didn't get turned in on time and now it's, an hour before bedtime the night before and you have to rush out to the store to pick up something that they should have, known about a week ago. And you've got to say, all right, now is it more important to, help them fix their problem or let them sort of get the, ding their grades and hopefully learn from it in the future. So it's something that I don't think anyone ever really fully gets right.
Yeah.
As parents, we struggle with it every day.
Yeah. Because if you don't shelter them, you're convinced you did it wrong because now they're suffering. Then if you do shelter them, then you're convinced you did it wrong because they didn't learn anything. And so they're just going to do it again. So yeah, it's one of those parenting things that feels like there's no right answer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like right now, my kids are between 15 and 20. So, old enough that they should be handling their own shit. Mm-hmm. But when they come over and they say, oh, this happened, or I did this, or this is a choice I made. And it's like, what? 19, 20-year-old, you made this decision. This is what you're doing. And it's sort of like, we're still confronted with that same question of, all right, do we intervene? Do we say something to tell them? Do we keep our mouths shut and let them go through with it? And I think it's sort of a learning experience that I'm going to say parents, I guess, get a little bit better at, with their consecutive children. Whereas in Sable's case, she wasn't even old enough to have an understanding of these things. And then 2, she just had 1. So she didn't have, what they call a safety kid to make sure she got right the second time.
Yeah. So then, of course, the younger sister ends up feeling totally betrayed. Oh, I can't trust you because you didn't tell me all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And so there's a big falling out that happens, all because she sheltered too long, I guess.
Andy, what did you call it? You called it the project child? The
safety child?
Safety child. I'm the trial child. I was the first.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I was slightly sheltered growing up, which luckily I pulled myself out of, I think, because I went to private schools and you have to be careful getting sheltered as a private schools student. Like I would go to public schools and I thought I was entering a zoo, not all public schools are like that, but in the town I went to, grew up in, it was not good at all. Not all the kids there were bad or anything, but when you go to play football there and everyone else is completely different, I realized, wow, there's a whole world out there that's not St. Mary's Catholic School, K through 6 or whatever it was. And then I was homeschooled for a while I was acting, and that just made it way worse. Mm-hmm. So the whole sheltering thing is pretty serious, I would say. And I think you have to have a lot of self-awareness as a parent to realize if you're doing it or not.
Yeah.
But I don't have kids, so I don't know.
Per child, it changes too. Some of your kids are just more able to grasp stuff and understand what's happening and make the good decisions. And other ones need a little more hand holding.
My brother had a lot of trouble with it. I think it would have been a lot worse if he'd been the older brother he's an introvert and I'm very much an extrovert. I think that made a difference with me trying to push out of the boundaries. Mm-hmm. So,
which kind of begs the question, was he born an introvert, or because you were an extrovert, did he over time become an introvert? nature versus nurture.
I think you're right. I think he would have been a little bit different if he wouldn't have been so sheltered. And anytime my dad would try to step in and try to make us do something outside of that, there would be, an argument because it was going against that sheltered process. Now, I've been to sheltered kids' houses. Other kids from Catholic schools, like if I got in trouble, my mom would make me go spend the night with a friend who needed a friend. Luckily, I was a good kid. Like I was friendly to him and I actually ended up having a good time. But she would send me to these overly religious parents' homes. And I remember like I was trying to get some soap and I had to like say a small prayer as thanks as they put the soap in my hand and they watched me and they all counted happy birthday. As I rubbed this, it rubs the lotion on the skin. I was freaked out. And, for dinner that night, we had a tomato with salt on it. It was a weird experience, but I've seen sheltered. So
wow,
yeah. And while we were there, he had to go to piano practice in the living room for an hour and a half, and I just sat there and listened. It was so weird. So yeah, I don't think I had it that bad.
But like the parent child dynamic is one thing, but then kind of bringing it back to what I was saying earlier about that, like Janice was saying, with equals in a relationship or in a professional relationship, where you conceal something from someone else or where you try to protect them. One of the biggest fights that my wife and I have ever had that she still doesn't let me forget to this day. I'm going to say the one big boo-boo that I made in our relationship over 11 years is that I invited someone to something and I didn't run it by her first. Right. So this person, my wife didn't know that this person was coming to an event and I didn't know either, but I didn't check with my wife before inviting the person to the event. And so when it turned out that this person was going to come to the event, my wife had already found out and she was like, why didn't you tell me? And it was a huge thing. And for me, it was like, well, I didn't want it to affect you before if it was even going to be a problem or not, then I was going to tell you. But then she was like, but then don't you trust me to be okay with it? Like, don't you trust me enough to trust that I'll have the right reaction. I'll have a good reaction. And that sort of changed my perspective on things, that like when it comes to things like this, saying the hard truth, not insulting people, obviously, but when it comes time to say a hard truth, whether, to the person that you're living with, I feel like it's never the right choice to shelter them in that sense. Like you can keep things that could actually hurt them to protect them from being hurt. But when it comes to concealing things that maybe they need to know, or that would affect them in a not painful sort of way, then you kind of need to tell them, or you owe them that much respect, at least.
I, as many people know here, I listen to so many self-help books. It's like I'm in a cult almost, which I did a lot of studying while building fishing lights, which was honestly depressing and scary. Two big ones. Because we actually have modern day cults, by the way, obviously, but one's on YouTube. Anyway, what the heck was I saying? Oh, so I talked earlier about, I think I have a problem with this. I white lie. I used to do a lot of white lying because I didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And it got to the point where I wasn't doing work that I told somebody I would do, when I was in high school. And just because I wanted to save face. And I said, oh, I did it. Then the work wouldn't get done. Or my boss would text me. He's like, hey, are you at the gym? Because I worked at a gym. And I was like, yeah, I'm not late. And he'd be there, stuff like that. And as I read these books, one of the things that stood out to me was honesty. The quickest path to honesty is always the best path. So that's something I really stick to, even if the truth hurts. Now, I still believe in a white lie every now and then. You don't want to be a douchebag, but I think the quicker you get to honesty, the better. And I've actually had a few arguments with a few slight people in my family. Oops, shit, I gave away too much. That because of this action, they didn't want to hear the truth. And you seem like a smart, I'll just say it was my parents. Like, you seem like a smart aleck when you're like, well, I told you the truth. Would you have rather me have lied? and that doesn't work either. You can't win sometimes, but I like to be as truthful as I can.
Yeah, sometimes you're fucked either way, right?
Exactly.
But you always need to make the right choice for like the best choice for you. You know, like doing the right thing in the situation, even if it, you know, if you're fucked, if you're lying, and you fucked if you're honest. Go the honest route. Be fucked anyway, but you did the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely. And you know, Janice, I know we're kind of late into the episode, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as an author? I'm trying to do on the podcast because I feel like you know, everyone knows everybody. You're a big dragon author. I think we all know that, but just a few things about you would be awesome. And you know, why did you choose this theme for today as well?
I chose the theme because I panicked when you guys said, "What are you an expert at?" And I was like, "I don't have any idea." And I was struck. I was having conversation with some other authors about all the romance they put in their stories. I almost never have romance in my stories, but I have a lot of like sibling relationships, or even like like the whole adopted family. Like there's just lots of these familial ties that go through everything. So it was on my mind. So that's why I picked this.
That makes sense. So wow. Okay.
I lose interest fast in romantic like plot lines in normal life. Like I don't often find ones that I like. But that being said, my very favorite book is Pride and Prejudice. So if it's done right, then I love it.
So I should read that.
You should.
I haven't seen the movie.
It's the best book ever.
Oh wait, I'm thinking of the one with Wesley in it.
You're thinking of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, Stevie.
Yeah,
that was a good one too.
The one with Wesley, and
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. Yeah, I get those two mixed up. Either way, when I tell someone I haven't seen the movie or read the book, they like want to punch me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Pride and Prejudice. Read it. You'll thank me, I'm sure.
The zombie one or the regular one?
Go for the regular one first, and then the zombie one's a lot more funny.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. I actually learned about Abraham Lincoln. They tricked me into learning, Janice.
It's awful.
It's awful. I hate it. But yeah, and just a few things about you. Like I know you. Can I say what state you live in?
Yeah.
She lives in Alaska. The Alaska of the main continent, which is
Montana, which we often say it's like Alaska light. Like we have smaller mountains and smaller things. Well, my family does. I don't think Montana as a whole. Yeah.
It's so true. Like I went to Montana, there's just no cell signal.
No, there isn't.
There's no cell signal. Like I'm going crazy in these bare woods. My parents called me lookout on that trip because I fell asleep in the back reading. And that was the trip my parents took my book away from me so I would enjoy nature. But it's freaking gorgeous over there. It's like fake almost.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes, but
that's good. Yeah. So we live in Montana. We did live in the mountains. We're on the plains for a little while now. I'm not a fan of the plains. Actually, if you read my books, my characters end up on these grassy plains for this one whole book. And you can tell it's right when we moved to the plains too, because I'm like, there's stupid grass everywhere. Like all my characters like, there's just more grass. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the plains. But so we live in the mountains. And let's see. I think I said already, like sort of more classic fantasy. I grew up in like the 80s and 90s with fantasy, all those really good classic fantasy books. And I love all the tropes. Like I love them. People get all bent out of shape about like the farm boy to the king trope and all this stuff, but I just love them when they're done right. Like there's something so satisfying about them.
That's one of my favorites too. For sure. I grew up on the older fantasy as well. To me, Dragonlance was old.
That works for me too. Yeah.
Okay, that was old for me, and as well as who wrote the Dungeons and Dragons series? It's
Salvatore.
Salvatore. But there was another one who did Pillars of Autumn. I think that's
Pillars of Autumn. Twilight is Dragonlance.
That one is Dragonlance. Okay, to me, I was like, this is some nerdy stuff. Like, I don't want anyone to read over my shoulder what I just read.
Yeah, back then you didn't like broadcast what you were reading. Yeah. But like went to the mall with my babysitting money and like sat in Walden Books and picked off fantasy books.
On the floor because those bastards didn't have comfy seats like Borders and the other ones did.
Nope. And just like see what new book had come out. It was always a Dragonlance book because there were so many of those. But yeah.
Walden Books was the shit. That was the one at the mall, and that's where I was going. Walden Books.
Yeah. That random guy who worked the front counter, who was like total fantasy and sci-fi freak guy, and he was the only way you could know like when a book was coming out. You know, he knew like for the next year when anything would be published, and so you'd have to stop by and ask him what was coming.
That's awesome. It's like a Sandlot story, because the computers are now. Like I was probably like 12 when like the internet really got going. No, anyway, I'll take us off the topic, but today we have a very Andy. Do you want to get to the reading?
Yeah, let's do the reading. This is from A Keeper's Tale, right?
Yeah. So this is like a standalone. So all my keepers in the Keeper Chronicles, they're these storytellers, right? So they're like known for being storytellers. And they have this story of Tompkin and the Dragon. That's like one of their most well-known stories. And so once I finished I finished the first book, and everyone wanted to know what the story of Tompkin and the Dragon was. So I wrote A Keeper's Tale, which is it's like 50,000 words. It's a short story, but about a guy.
Awesome.
Tompkin.
All right. So there's Tompkin, the girl, and the narration, right? Or is there a dragon in this too?
I don't think the dragon's in this scene. The dragon captured them. Very like smog like dragon.
All right. Yeah. Usually we have Stevie read the girl part, but you fit the bill a little bit better, Jenna. So why don't you read the girl part? Stevie, do you want to do the narration or Tompkin?
Well, first of all, finally, thank you for being nice to me. Appreciate it. And who is Tompkin like? Is he like a young boy? Is he?
He is. He's like 20, and he's really bookish. He has a older brother who's like the stereotypical hero, and he's off to war with his dad and doing all these great things. And Tompkin's like at home, he's keeping the books for his family, and he's just kind of like, he just found out he's supposed to marry this really horrible woman from like the next duchy over, and he's just like pissed because he wants to be worth more to his family than being married off to this horrible girl. And so he doesn't know. All he knows is everyone hates her.
That makes more sense, right? Andy, I'll leave this up to you, man.
All right, why don't you read Tompkin, Stevie?
Okay, sure thing.
I feel like this is your day.
That means I have to find the thing. So hold on one second. It's here.
We call this pulling a Stevie.
I was just about to say that.
Being wildly unprepared for the podcast.
Son of a gun. I actually had it up too. So I like it when they do this because it makes me look like a god.
Okay. I had like a million windows open, and when I tried to like search,
okay.
Whoa. Okay, but I do have it now. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So Tompkin crashed down onto something lumpy. There was a splintering of wood and a cry of pain he was positive hadn't come from himself. The door slammed shut and the bar clunked into place, dropping the tower into a deep gloom. A wave of relief at being alive washed over Tompkin until a sharp jab dug into his back.
Get off me.
The lumpy thing shoved at him. A girl! The dragon had captured a girl! Sitting among broken pieces of a chair in front of a sagging desk was a furious girl. She was tremendously dirty. Her hair, which might have been brown, was tangled and held small clods of dirt, and her face was smudgy with mud. She was like some fantastical creature made of earth. Tompkin scrambled to his feet and held out a hand to her.
Don't worry,
he whispered.
It'll be okay. I'll get you out of here. Are there any doors? Any other doors?
He peered through the dim light. She scrambled up and crossed her arm, looking remarkably imperious for a girl dressed in dirt.
Get out.
Her voice rang in the hollow tower. Tompkin blinked.
Out.
Out.
She pointed at the door.
This is mine.
Tompkin looked around, confusion putting a damper on his terror.
What's yours?
He was standing in the bottom of the round tower, which rose 2 or 3 stories. High above him, sunlight poured in through a ring of thin, arched windows, but only a dribble of it reached down to where they were. The skeleton of a staircase clung to the walls in bits and pieces. Thick, rotten beams stuck out overhead from what had been a second floor. The air smelled dusty and old, as though it had been held captive within these walls, too.
This tower? I think the dragon's using it as a prison.
She raised her sharp little chin and looked down her sharp little nose at him.
Hold on one second. Yes, I'm reading something. So my husband doesn't know we're doing this reading, and he thought I was yelling for someone to get out because he wasn't in this part of the house, and I'm not part of that door. So that makes total sense.
You don't want to yell that in Montana.
No, you don't. It could be sensitive. Yes, so that's why. So, yes. Anyway, she answers, it's not a prison, it's the keep.
Tompkin looked at the pile of rubble on the floor beside them.
No, it's not. Keeps are strongholds, the last best refuge of a castle.
He let out a little laugh.
This is more of a give up than a keep.
Brilliant pun there. Love it.
Yeah.
Her eyes narrowed to venomous slits.
Call it whatever you like. It's mine.
She seems serious. Tompkins sank onto a pile of rocks behind him, rubbing his sore shoulder. His terror had drained away, leaving his muscles feeling weak and watery.
We've been captured by a dragon. Nothing about this place is ours.
I haven't been captured. I'm here by choice.
Tompkins stared at her.
By choice. Inside that barred door.
She glared at him.
Who are you? Some little squire who thought it would be impressive to kill a dragon?
He drew himself up.
I'm the son of Duke Marshwell.
He paused to let the significance of that sink in. The girl's eyebrow twitched the slightest amount, and she appraised him again. Tompkins pulled his shoulders back. Common girls were so easily impressed. She raised one eyebrow in disdain.
You're the future Duke of Marshwell?
That settled it. Tompkins didn't like her.
No, I'm the Duke's younger son. My brother Elton will be Duke.
What will you be?
I'll be me.
He snapped.
Tompkins of Marshwell, with full force of Marshwell's troops and power supporting me. I'll be anything I want to be.
She gave him a little smirk.
Except Duke.
Tompkins hated her.
Who are you and why are you here?
She tossed her hair, sending up a little puff of dust.
Vorath and I have an agreement.
Vorath.
The dragon. You didn't even introduce yourself to him, did you? I didn't realize younger sons of lesser lords had so few manners.
Lesser lords? He spoke slowly so he could get through to her.
You know what Marshwell is, right? It's this land you live on, stretching north to the Blue Hills and south to coastal Balon. It's the third largest duchy in the kingdom. And,
he said, remembering the Isle of Balgland.
Land.
The girl looked unimpressed.
Don't forget the putrid marshes.
They're not putrid, they're mournful.
She snorted.
It'd make me mournful if my land was covered with them.
It's not covered. The marshes are one small part.
Then why is it called Marshwell?
Tompkins took a deep breath. He didn't just hate this girl. What was a word worse than hate? Nothing came to mind. He just capitalized it then. He hated this girl.
And this is Tompkins, the next line.
So you're friends with the dragon?
Of course. I talked to him when I met him this morning. What did you do? Run at him with a sword?
No.
Whatever he'd done, it hadn't involved running.
What did you talk about?
I pointed out to Vorath that it's late summer and the cattle drives are next week, and I could gather a dozen cattle for him with an hour or two of work. I need to have food for weeks.
Tompkins stared at her, stunned.
You're domesticating him?
The girl snorted.
No one domesticates a dragon. We're working together.
She lifted her chin again.
It's a mutually beneficial association.
She was either insane or incredibly stupid.
Right. Vorath gets cows. How do you benefit? Besides not being eaten until the cows run out.
He's not going to eat me. I get to live here. I pointed out to Vorath that his castle wasn't in great shape and I could help with that, if, in return, he would let me live here with him. I could give him a castle worth being proud of and he could give me a home.
She straightened her shoulders.
I'm not interested in living the life people think I should live. I'm writing my own story.
Writing her own story? Someone needed to take away this girl's quill.
Wait, did you come looking for a dragon?
No.
She stared at him like he was an idiot. Like he was the idiot.
I was looking for a new home. Serendipitously, I met Vorath.
Serendipitously was a big word for such a dusty girl.
And now that I'm here, well...
She stood as tall as a small girl could.
This is my new home. It has a lot of potential.
It has the potential to fall into the river.
Her eyebrows drew down sharply like a pair of angry dirt clods.
Tell me this, Tompkins, the inept dragon hunter. Why didn't the Duke of Marshwell send warriors in to fight Vorath?
Tompkins shifted.
It was my decision. I'm in charge of Marshwell while my father is fighting at the border.
Tompkins raised his own chin. She studied him.
They left you in charge?
Tompkins gave her his most imperious nod. It didn't feel as polished as hers.
And instead of coming up with a good plan, you came yourself?
I'm perfectly capable.
He began.
Obviously.
And once I do this, my father will drop his foolish idea about who he wants me to marry, and things can get back to normal.
She stared at him, appalled.
You came to fight a dragon because you didn't want to get married?
No, marriage is fine. I'd like to get married. I just don't want to marry the girl my father picked.
Why not? Is she not rich enough for the littlest son of the Duke of the Putrid Marshes?
It has nothing to do with that. The rumors about her are enough to...
Rumors?
She interrupted.
Based on only rumors, you're willing to fight a dragon to get away from her?
It's not just about her. If the younger son of a less prominent lord is going to attract the eye of someone significant, he's got to have some sort of claim, something impressive.
Like being captured by a dragon?
You know, that was half Monty Python and half Terry Pratchett, that dialogue. That was awesome.
I love the humor. And I think I'm going to take some of that. I loved it. Oh man. Good stuff. I love the sarcasm kind of thing going on. I put that a lot in my stuff, so it was fun. I'm glad I got to play Tompkin. I enjoyed that a lot, actually. Yes, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Janice. So what is a dusty girl? She's just dusty.
So she just traveled really far to get there, and so she's just filthy. And so,
I was thinking we had been like hanging out in the abandoned palace for a few days, just like, yeah, this is my place, and just got super dirty. I love it.
Yeah. So she's way more fun than I thought she was going to be too when I started writing. So
kind of like the elf girl.
Yeah.
Is she the protagonist of this story, or
Tompkin is, and so he's convinced she needs to be saved. So he didn't really believe there was a dragon, and when he showed up, there was a dragon, and he actually trips and falls. He's like up above it on a ledge with this sword he's not supposed to have. That's his father's, and he actually trips and falls on the dragon with the sword. And the dragon's just like, are you kidding me? And so the dragon throws him in the tower with this girl, and Tompkin's just, he's like, she's in distress. Like, I have to save this damsel in distress. He's very like caught up in stories. And she's just like, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm totally good here. And that's like the story of the two of them, him trying to escape and convince her the dragon's really bad. And she's trying to convince him that she and the dragon have worked this out and they're all okay. So
if he comes back without the sword, is he in trouble?
Yes, very big trouble. He wasn't supposed to take it in the first place.
Crap. That sucks.
Yeah.
That sounds like an absolutely ridiculously entertaining story. Just a comedy of errors in all the best ways.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just like this little romp of an adventure that it never takes itself more seriously, really, than that. So good stuff.
Wow. Slightly, Tompkin reminds me of Finn Featherstone, just slightly. I think Finn is a little bit more, not a little bit, he's much more of a weakling. So mentally, it seems Tompkin is trying to be brave at least.
Yes, trying.
Finn's got he really thinks low about himself. Tony.
Hi, Tony.
What happened to you, man? Well, you should just replay it. It's so good. And again, this is from the Keeper Chronicles. Keepers or Keeper?
A Keeper's Tale.
Keeper's Tale. It goes along with the Keeper Chronicles. But yeah, it's a standalone. You can read it by itself, whatever. It's its own thing. Okay, awesome. Well, the link will be down in the description, and you should totally go to Amazon and purchase this. Remember, read it now, and then in the fall, come back for the audiobook, which is going to be done by a friggin' Podium and some big wig narrator who did Red Wing. So
Red Rising, Stevie.
Red Rising. Oh no. I don't know why I said that. Anyway. Hopefully no one caught that. No one heard that. Anyway, so Janice, thank you very much for sharing that book with your story with us. Sorry, I'm flustered now. Where can people find you? jaandrews.com works. The website. All my books are all on Amazon. They're all in Kindle Unlimited, actually. So the best place to look for me is probably on Amazon. Does anyone go wide anymore? Yeah, it's a thing. Few people do. Lindsay Broker does it. That's the only author I know who does that. Yeah, and even she's like only half. Like she keeps a bunch of stuff in KU and then takes it wide later. Makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about, Andy? No, I just have some super, super awesome news that I've been sitting on for about 2 weeks, and that I promised I would finally get to reveal this afternoon. So our guest for next week, next Thursday night, we are having the one and only Veronica Roth coming on the podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah, her publicist reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. She's got a new book coming out, The Chosen Ones, and so we're going to get her on next Thursday to talk about that. I am super, super stoked.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Divergence, is that like for girls?
No, it's got a female main character. It came out shortly after the Hunger Games, but it is awesome.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed that whole series, so I'm super excited to get her on and talk about new stuff too.
Was it a movie?
There was a movie series
with Channing Tatum.
Nope.
What a
Theo James.
I don't know what I'm thinking of. There was anyway. That's awesome, dude. I've known about this news too, and I'm surprised I haven't said it on accident. So
good for not spoiling my.
Yes. Well, Janice, thank you so much for being with us today. And honestly, it was a pleasure meeting you. This is the first time Janice and I have spoken, everyone.
That's true. We've Facebooked, I think, but never actually spoken.
We Facebooked, that's right. And I had to just keep messaging her because I was like this small peon. And she was like, what does he want? Oh my God, no. It was awesome. Thank you so much, Janice. Really appreciate you for being on the air at the Fantasy Fiends podcast. We will be back next week for another awesome special episode. Come back to get all your questions answered by, I don't know if we're taking questions, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Andy, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody. Yeah. Jazz fingers that I do wrong. Yeah, it's